I know it's loud because I'm a loud person. It's the sweet one. Anyways, alright, we are back on. Now after dreaming about the Bell Museum and Planetarium, which I hope you will all be there the weekend of July 14th. That's right. Now we're gonna switch gear and talk about tiger preservation. And for this fabulous topic, we have the fabulous Constance, who is self-designated as a tiger freak. So enjoy, nerds!
Okay, hi. Hi, everybody.
It's up to you.
Yeah, this is a little better.
As close to your mouth though as possible.
As close to my mouth as
yeah.
possible. How's
Like
this?
You're eating it. Yes.
It's all good? Okay. Okay, I'm not gonna eat it though. Okay. Okay. Thanks for being here to hear this information about tigers. Tonight we're going to talk about tigers and the threat of extinction that faces them these days. We're also going to talk about why there are so many tigers in the United States, but not so many in the wild. And then we'll talk at the end on a positive note about what's going on to keep tigers from disappearing altogether off the face of the earth. So here we go. Ooh. So, why do I care about tigers? As I said to Audrey, I'm a tiger freak. I always loved tigers since I was a little girl. Sorry, I need to move the microphone with my head. Loved Tigger and Winnie the Pooh. But in 2011, I read a story online about a tiger and a lion and a bear cub who were found in the basement of a drug dealer's house in Atlanta. When the drug dealer was arrested, the police confiscated the cubs and took them to a sanctuary outside of Atlanta. And this is the tiger. His name is Shere Khan. Before hearing about this guy, I had always thought, oh yeah, tigers, they're cute. That's awesome. They're lovely. I love their stripes. Great, whatever. But this particular tiger, when I saw the photo on the left of him as a cub, infested with bugs, starved, frightened, whatever, I saw the look in his eyes, and of course, it's like, oh my God. And then I saw a photo of him as a grown tiger, and you can laugh at me if you want, but it was like a lightning bolt to see the same expression in his eyes as the expression in the tiger cub's eyes. And I thought, oh my God, that's the same spirit. It's the same guy. He's just all grown up and he knows that he's safe now. But that was a turning point for me. And I started studying up on how I could advocate for tigers, whether it was here in the United States or all over the world. So why should you care about tigers? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. In the early 1900s, there were over 100,000 tigers in the wild all over the world. Quite a few, probably even more before that. Today, there are 5,000 tigers in captivity in the United States in private homes. Sorry, 95% of them are in private homes. 5% are in zoos, sanctuaries, whatever. 95% of those are in people's backyards, in cages in their backyards, living in their garages, whatever. Another 7,000 to 8,000 tigers live on tiger farms in Southeast Asia and China. Tiger farms, like livestock farms, whatever. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So how many remain in the wild? Anybody want to take a guess on any of these?
100.
100? There's about 100 Indo-Chinese tigers left in the world. Anybody else? Sorry?
10,000?
10,000? No. There's a total of about 3,500 tigers in the wild in the rest of the world. Malayan tigers about 500, Sumatran about 300, Bengal, there are the most of those, there are about 2,500 of those. Amur, which used to be called Siberian tigers, but they don't call them Siberian tigers anymore because they don't really live in Siberia. They just live in an area surrounding the Amur River in Far East Russia. Royal white Siberian tigers. Anybody want to take a guess on that one?
20.
0. And we'll talk about that in a minute too. Indo-Chinese, less than 100. South China tigers, none in the wild, about 100 in a couple of Chinese zoos. Caspian tigers, gone. They're over. Javan tigers, gone. Balinese tigers, gone. So the countries where they live, and we're not counting the United States because we don't really have any purebred tigers of any type in the United States. They're in Far East Russia, they're in India, they're in Nepal, Bhutan, in Indonesia, Bangladesh, these kind of places. This map says there are a total of 1,710 tigers. This map is from 2014. So we're doing a little better, but not by that much. Not in comparison to 100,000 back in 1900. So, this photo right here, little joke for you. But I'm here to tell you that this tiger right here is the closest you are ever going to come to see a real, live, natural-born white tiger. Royal Siberian white tigers, which we mentioned earlier, there's no such thing. Siegfried and Roy decided that they were going to call white tigers by a cool name so that everybody thought that they were a species unto themselves that needed to be preserved. Nope, they're not. White tigers are found, well, they used to be found, not anymore, but only 1 in 10,000 natural tiger births does the white tiger turn up. White tigers came to the United States. One white tiger came to the United States as a gift during the Eisenhower administration. The last confirmed and documented white tiger in the wild was killed by a trophy hunter in 1958. The white tigers that live in the United States right now are all bred from that one white tiger that came here in the 50s. And the way that they get white tigers is to inbreed them. Fathers with daughters, mothers with sons, brothers and sisters, the whole 9 yards. Because the white tiger gene is a recessive gene that both tigers have to have. These are lovely examples of white tigers. The one on the left is Callie. She lives in, well, sorry, the one on the left is Callie, the one on the right is Simon. They live in a wildcat sanctuary up north in Sandstone. They are beautiful examples of white tigers. But when this inbreeding policy is used or implemented, whatever, 97% of the cubs born are yellow tigers. Only 3% are white. Of that 3%, 50% are born dead. Or they're born with hideous malformations, with terrible disease or, congenital diseases that they die right away. As an example, the tiger on the left has crossed eyes. Here's the deal, all white tigers have crossed eyes. You can't always tell, but the same gene that causes the white fur causes the optic nerve to be fused to the wrong side of the brain. So all white tigers, you might not be able to tell, just like you can't tell if the person next to you has astigmatism all the time. But all white tigers have crossed eyes. The second tiger, his name is Kenny. He was born in 2000. He only lived 10 years. Tigers in captivity usually live 20 to 23 years, depending on their environment. Kenny only lived 10. Not only did he have all the facial deformities that you see here, he had scoliosis, he had kidney disease, he was in bad shape, but he was rescued by an organization that wanted to care for him, and so he did pretty well. The tiger on the right has mange. Again, really susceptible to pretty much any disease that could ever strike a tiger. White tigers are, they could get it. They could have it. Zuri here is okay now. She was taken in to a sanctuary and they treated her mange and she looks fine now. Her fur is a little short, but she looks pretty normal. So, why are the wild tigers disappearing? Well, kind of the obvious reasons. Habitat encroachment. People are building farms. People are, human population is spreading. Climate change. Environments are being flooded. They're getting too hot. Poaching is a big deal for tigers. And Oriental medicine. The Oriental medicine piece kind of goes hand in hand with the poaching. These are two tigers who live in the Sundarbans National Park in Bangladesh and India. What's happening there is that the sea is rising, and so the plants are dying, and so the environment is being spoiled. So prey is dying, so the tigers don't have enough to eat. Palm oil plantations are springing up all over Indonesia and Sumatra. If you read the ingredients on the products that you buy in the grocery store, if they have palm oil, it's a good idea to try to avoid that, and then perhaps the demand for palm oil would go down, because jungles are being torn down to make room for palm oil plantations. Poaching then. It affects more than one tiger at a time. So a poacher goes out, he finds a tiger, he shoots it, yay, I've got a tiger. Well, if it's a female, then she might have cubs. And especially in areas like Far East Russia, if it's wintertime, the cubs might starve and freeze. And then they're done, of course. Rather than decreasing the amount of poaching, these tiger farms that I mentioned further back, they actually increase poaching because people see, oh, look how much money I can make from selling a tiger and tiger parts to the Oriental medicine market. I could get a tiger for free if I just go out into the forest and shoot one. So it doesn't make any difference. The tiger farms are not helping at all. Besides which, they're not treating the tigers well. Oriental medicine. Tiger parts are used for all these things. Aphrodisiacs, fixing fevers caused by ghosts. Really? I couldn't bring myself to put a photo of a tiger skin rug here because I just couldn't. The two bottles here pictured are tiger bone wine. Rice wine during fermentation is put in a vat with tiger bones in it. It's fermented for anywhere from 1 week to 10 years. And it's just like scotch or something. The older it is, the more valuable it is. And in Oriental medicine, in some Oriental cultures, they think that this imparts strength and keeps you well, and so on. So it's crazy, but it's true. And can I just add that tigers as a whole, one whole tiger is not worth as much as the money that people can get from all its parts, from its claws, from its teeth, from its skin, from its brain powdered up for all these Oriental medicine items. It's crazy. So, back to the United States. Why are there so many tigers here? Well, there have been circuses. Ringling Brothers has shut down, but there are a lot of other circuses besides Ringling Brothers. When their tigers are not energetic enough or well enough to perform, then they're retired. They're sold to people. They don't care who they sell the tigers to. Overbreeding, as I said, that 97% versus 3% thing, what are you going to do with all those yellow tiger cubs that you don't really want, because what you really want is a white tiger? Well, you can sell them to people. Say, wouldn't you like a tiger as a pet? Awesome. And just don't warn them that it'll grow up to be 500 pounds and tear your face off if you don't treat him well. And also there's the overbreeding because people in petting zoos, cub petting establishments, they want more cubs all the time. Then there are also illegal auctions in some parts of the country where you can buy a poisonous snake, you can buy a tiger cub, you can buy a mountain lion cub, you can buy any kind of exotic animal that you think you might want. So the cub petting thing. Is anybody familiar with the cub petting industry? Not really? Yes. Okay. So here's the thing. These enterprises, they raise tigers. They have female tigers have as many litters of cubs as possible. And the way they do that is they take the cubs away from the mother as soon as possible, and then she goes into heat or into estrus, whatever, again, and then she'll be ready to have more cubs. In the wild, tigers take 3 years to grow up with their mothers. These cubs are taken away from their mothers way too early. The USDA does have rules about this, but they don't have enough people to enforce it. So they can't tell if tiger cubs are younger than 8 weeks or older than 12 weeks. In order to stay in line with the guidelines. This, of course, is a photo of a mother with her cubs, as it should be. So the baby animals as entertainment, this is not just tigers, this is lions, this is mountain lions, this is bears, this is monkeys, all kinds of creatures. So tigers, they're cats, right? Anybody have a cat? He or she sleeps 20 out of 24 hours, right? So a tiger cub, they need to sleep, especially when they're just very, very young. But they can't sleep because they have to be on for the people to come and hug them and feed them with a bottle and get photos taken with them and all that stuff. So their immune systems go way down. They were already far down because they were taken away from their mothers too early. They're held up by their front legs. There's been a cub petting enterprise that tells people that if you hold a cub up like this and shake it, then it'll obey you. And that's what mother tigers do to their cubs. It's like, really? How does a mother tiger do that? That's just not it. There's a cub petting enterprise in Florida that allows you to swim with tiger cubs. Again, take cubs away from their mothers too early, throw them in a swimming pool, and have people swim with them. The poor things, yes, tigers love water, they love to swim, but not when they're only 8 weeks old. This is just too early. So what happens to them when they get too big? Because they do get too big. If they don't die, they get too big. Tigers grow. They grow fast. If they're lucky, they get to a sanctuary, a real sanctuary. There are 2 organizations that accredit sanctuaries here in the United States. First is the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. The other is the Global Federation of Animal Sanctuaries. Both of these have websites. You can go to the website. If you think that you're going to be in an area and go visit a place that calls itself a sanctuary, go to one of their websites and see is this organization listed? If they're not listed, they're not a real sanctuary. That's all there is to it. Real sanctuaries don't buy, sell, breed, or in most cases, exhibit cubs or tigers or wild animals of any kind. So, scamtuaries. They have no certification from the AZA or GFOS. They do all that buying and breeding. They might be certified by the USDA. They might have a permit. But you know, a permit from the USDA costs $30. And anybody can get one. The USDA doesn't have the staff to follow up and make sure that everyone's following the kind of rules that they should be following. Usually that's a for-profit organization rather than a non-profit. They provide photo ops and direct contact with big cats or bears or monkeys or whatever. If you go to a place that says, oh yeah, you can go in there, you can touch them, you can pet them, don't do it. It's not a good place. And in many cases, the animals do not have enough space to breathe, to roam, to follow their natural inclinations. They get put into a cage that is only as big as the USDA says it has to be. Sometimes they're chained down to stages or floors so that you can have, you can get a photo taken. This guy, taking a big risk. This is a full-grown tiger here. If you see down at the, let's see, down there, chain, holding her down. She's mad. She's very mad. This particular tiger was rescued after the owner of this particular company died, and she's now safe in that same sanctuary up in northern Minnesota. For a long time, she wouldn't tolerate anyone coming near to the fence. She charged. But now she knows she's safe, she's okay. She doesn't come out and say hello to people, but she knows she's all right. Oh, and here's the other thing. She was
after she was with that guy? That was
after she was with that guy. Yep. And she was punished for misbehaving by being clubbed over the head with a baseball bat or with a fire extinguisher. Yeah. So these are two sisters, Pandora on the left and Priya on the right. They were saved from an organization that called itself a sanctuary, but was in reality much more of a breeding facility in Colorado in 2016. Almost immediately after the two of them were rescued, the Priya here went to a sanctuary in Florida. Pandora on the left came to Minnesota. Almost immediately, they had to go and have emergency surgery, or almost emergency surgery, because they had been bred so many times. Priya had a tumor in her uterus that weighed 20 pounds. Pandora was not so bad, but the owners up at the sanctuary in Minnesota heard about Priya and what she had gone through and said, you know what? If we're going to spay her, we need to go to the university to do it. We won't just do it on the grounds here. And it was a good thing because Pandora's surgery took about 6 hours. Now here's another thing. If you realize that these places are exhibiting animals, they say, oh, well, it's for conservation. We want everyone to be able to see a tiger. We want everyone to be able to see a lion and to see a giraffe and so on and so forth. There have actually been studies done that show that the more people see these exotic animals in person, the less they think they need to be conserved. You see a lot of tigers at a zoo, you go to a bunch of places, you see a lot of giraffes, and you think, oh, they're okay. They have plenty. They're good. No, not so much. So that's an interesting twist. So what's happening to stop all of this? Well, first of all, the big cat Public Safety Act is in Congress right now. It went through the House of Representatives and now it's in the Senate. It bans the private possession of big cats as pets, and it outlaws the breeding of big cats, and it requires registration if you're an owner, if you're grandfathered in. If you already have a big cat and everything's fine, then you can be grandfathered in, you can keep your cat, but you have to register. It also will, along with that outlawing breeding of big cats, that's going to put the cub petting people out of business, because that is the majority of what they do. On the state level, which is happening right now, there are 22 states that ban all ownership of wild cats as pets. 14 that ban only certain species, 10 don't ban the pets, but they require permits for ownership, and 4 have no laws at all. Here's a map. The red states are the ones that have no laws at all about owning wild animals as pets. And you have to understand that it's not just a subjective thing of, well, I want to have a tiger, I'll take the risk of owning a dangerous wild animal and having it in my home or in my backyard. I'll do it, I'll take full responsibility. Well, what if something happens? What if there's an emergency? What if you have a stroke and die in your house and nobody knows that you have a tiger in the backyard? The emergency personnel, the fire department, whatever, might come to your house and go, oh, we have to save you, but they don't know you have a tiger in the backyard. They need to know that you have a tiger in the backyard. And that's part of what this Big Cat Public Safety Act is part of. It's trying to accomplish, so that at least it's known. Meanwhile, in Far East Russia, they've been having great success, well, I shouldn't say great, moderate success in rescuing tiger cubs that have been orphaned by poachers, keeping them in a rehabilitation facility so that they can grow up, learn to hunt, learn to do all the things they're supposed to do as tigers, and then releasing them into the wild. The first real success story was Zalushka, who was rescued in 2012. She wandered into a small village. She was almost frozen. She was starving. Half her tail was frostbitten off. She went into this rehabilitation program and was released in 2013. In 2015, a camera trap out in the wilderness saw a picture of her with 2 cubs. So yay, proliferation of the species. More recently, Svetlaya, another tiger cub who was rescued from being an orphan out in the wild, was rehabilitated, set free again, and I don't know, it's kind of hard to see, but there's an extra foot here, and there's an extra foot here. So there's a cub there. They can't exactly go out and say, okay, it's time to take pictures, you guys. Come on over here. They have to rely on camera traps to get these photos. And then very recently, just this past May, there were 2 cubs who were rescued at pretty much the same time. They were put together in the rehabilitation facility, and just in May, they were released together. It's a male and female. They don't know if they're going to actually mate. They don't care. They're just like, get out there. If you want to mate, go find one. So far, so good. So final thought. In the wise words of Martin Luther King Jr., one day the absurdity of the almost universal belief in the slavery of other animals will be palpable. We shall then have discovered our souls and become worthier of sharing this planet with them. Thank you.
Questions? Don't be shy.
So are there more lions or tigers in the wild?
There are more lions.
By a lot or by a little?
By kind of a lot. Lions just missed being added to the critically endangered species list at a meeting last year. An organization called CITES It's an acronym for something that I cannot remember. But lions are also in danger because they are being raised for a thing called canned hunting, which happens both here in the United States, but mostly in Africa, where lions are raised from cubs. They get put out there for people to pet. When they get older, they get put out there for people to go on walks with. And then when they reach a certain age, they're put into an enclosed area and trophy hunters can come and shoot them. And they have no escape. So that's really lame. Yeah.
Any
Oh.
other questions?
I know there's been recent laws and pushes to get farmers and such to report on poachers because they get substantial amount of rewards versus just ignoring them like they were beforehand. Have those laws help to like dissuade
Here in
them?
the United States?
No,
or-
actually, like places like China and some places in
Yeah,
Africa.
I think they have helped, but the incredible amount of money that a poacher can get for all the parts of a tiger is really tempting.
Okay.
I'm sure it does make a difference, but I think you have to have a conscience as well.
Has the Chinese government cracked down at all on the use of traditional? Tigers aren't the only animal that's used for largely used for this kind of stuff.
Not really. The latest Olympics was, where was that? In China, wherever that was. They removed the tiger wine products from stores so that Westerners couldn't see it. And then put them back afterwards. Didn't want anybody to think that they were all superstitious or anything. But, and I mean, I'm sure there are millions of perfectly fine Chinese people who don't believe in any of this at all. But the volume of people who do are crucifying tigers and other animals. Yes, sir.
Does the Minnesota Zoo still have tigers, and how do you feel about that?
The Minnesota Zoo does still have tigers, and that's all good. They're, tigers in captivity sucks no matter what you do. But the Minnesota Zoo is doing a fine job of caring for their tigers, and they are breeding, but they are not crossbreeding between species. Pretty much all of the tigers that are owned by private citizens here in the United States are what they call generic tigers, because they're not Amur tigers because their mother was Amur and their father was Bengal, and nobody paid any attention to the species lines, the subspecies lines. I believe the tigers at the Minnesota Zoo are really Amur tigers.
Any final question? All right.